Hello, everybody. It's Michael Hollands once again for Sound of the Movies. Today, I have the pleasure to be joined by internationally known actress Tamlyn Tomita. Over the course of her long career, she has starred in well-known and popular films and TV series such as The Karate Kid Part 2, Come See the Paradise, The Joy Luck Club, Four Rooms, The Day After Tomorrow, Eureka, The Berlin Station, The Good Doctor, The Man in the High Castle, and many more. On this episode, we will talk about her acting career and, of course, we will cover The Karate Kid Part 2 as well as Cobra Kai Season 3. It is my pleasure to welcome Tamlyn Tomita.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Michael, for having me on Sound of the Movies. I'm excited to have this chat with you.
Great. I'm looking forward to it too, and thank you very much for taking the time out of your schedule. I really appreciate that. As I understand, you grew up in Los Angeles actually, and then you attended UCLA and got a degree in history and had initially wanted to become a teacher, if I'm not mistaken, yet you chose a different career path after all. What enabled you to do so?
Yes, that was my original, path with which I was making very tentative, very timid steps in following. But in 1984 in Los Angeles, there is the longest ethnic festival that's held every summer called the Nisei Week Japanese Festival. Nisei, Nisei, meaning second generation in Japanese. And it's a celebration of Japanese and Japanese American culture here in Southern California, which has been around since 1934. And in 1984, I was asked by community members to run for queen of the pageant, along with 7 other gals for that year. And I was crowned queen for 1984, so I represented the Los Angeles Japanese American community for events throughout California and across the nation, and actually in South America as well. In 1985, in the spring of '85, there was a casting call by Caro Jones, who was the casting director for the original film Karate Kid. And she put out the casting call for Karate Kid Part 2, which would take place in Okinawa. So the Nisei Week Japanese Festival, and especially Helen Funai, her last name is Funai, asked me, along with other Japanese American women of a young age, to go in and audition. And I was taking a break from UCLA, and I said, sure, why not? This would be fun. It would be fun to see what a Hollywood movie audition would be like, what a director would be like, and how to act. And I had no idea what acting was. I went in to audition, and I guess they liked me, and they called me back. And I went back in, and they called me back. So that happened around 6 or 7 times. They flew me to meet Ralph Macchio in Long Island, New York, to have what they call a chemistry test. I'm sure your fans will know what a chemistry test is. It's like they put the actors in a room together to see how they get along, energetically or spiritually. John Avildsen was my guiding light throughout the whole process. The first audition I had was with him, and he was just this energetic director, always interested in taking notes and video. So this was video cameras. This was not the iPhone. It was a much more complicated setup. And so I owe everything to Caro Jones and John Avildsen and Helen Funai, those 3 persons who really guided me into Karate Kid. So I'm sorry, I'm making this story so long. So after I did the film and understood what some of the responsibilities in telling that kind of story can affect people who look like me, or who are interested in Okinawan culture or Japanese American culture, that's kind of a teaching tool. And so I thought, wow, acting can be an incredibly powerful tool and instrument, and that we can all learn a little bit about each other all around the world. So that's pretty much a long story short into how I uh, kind of rectified the idea of becoming an actor with my original intent in becoming a teacher, because that's what I would like to do. That's my guiding light, is trying to pass along stories or try to teach people the small and the little lessons that I've learned and picked up along life.
Right. Thank you very much for elaborating on that. And I was going to ask you about this anyway, because the art of acting and collaboration and interaction with fellow actors and also directors is very essential. So if you get along and if you have on and off screen chemistry, this, of course, as I understand, which I think is only natural, helps you to portray the character, and eventually you get more out of your own performance, I guess.
Absolutely. I can attest to that. I am so incredibly, fantastically lucky to be reprising a role 34 years later. And I can tell you with all truthfulness is that when I stepped on set with Ralph, in front of the crew of Cobra Kai, it was like I still felt like I was 21 again. It was like I know nothing. I have absolutely no footing, no bearing as to how to act, except all I can trust is looking into Ralph's eyes and hearing what he has to say, and trusting that he'll be literally playing with me in this scene. Is that we're just playing other people who happen to like each other and who are learning uh, about each other, and passing along, in the original film is like, wow, I like you. Can this work out? It's like, oh, my English is so bad, but you're so cute. Those kinds of things that are all swirling in my head as me, Tamlyn, but then I have to, learning how to act and how to portray or how to be another character, Kumiko, what was mind-boggling and compelling, and it really was is a testament to the importance that people really have to get along. They really have to find some kind of common ground as to how to communicate and how to work together, because you're working together on a story, you're working together on a film, you're working together on a TV show. We're all in this together, literally. Let's make this really as great as we can. Put away the egos, put away your agenda. Let's just try to make these moments kind of sparkle and fly and magical. So
Yes.
that's what's always been my because I know nothing, and I've always tried to place my trust in my fellow actors, my fellow directors, and say, how do we do this, or how can I help, what can I do for you? So that's always been a very primary, basic way of how I approach my work.
Great. And do you have a certain methods when it comes to preparing for a part of a certain?
Oh, Michael, I steal from everybody. I watch my husband. When he prepares for something, I watch how he goes over the script and goes over the analysis or goes into character work. I watch him all the time. Well, he's in the next room, so now he can hear me. I just confessed to, but I steal from everybody. I watch. I'm like that kid because I was. People will probably argue against me, because I'm pretty noisy. I have a loud voice, but if I'm in a group of people that I don't know, I'd like to sneak onto the back and just kind of watch people and observe, because I find people are so fascinating. So I watch how body language is so indicative of how I can approach a character, how they speak, the volume with they speak, how they move their head, how they look at each other. I'm a mishmash of so many other great people's approaches to acting, and talking about acting and its craft is just so joyful, so inspiring, and it makes me feel like I know a lot at the same time knowing that I don't know a lot. So it makes me excited to learn every time I step on a set.
Great. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on that. We just talked about John Avildsen, And you also worked with other very renowned and great directors, such as Alan Parker on Come See the Paradise and Wayne Wang on The Joy Club. And also you starred in Four Rooms and Robert Rodriguez directed it. What do you think was the most valuable set and film experience you have ever had?
The first thing that I'll always remember, he was what we call the first assistant director on Karate Kid Part 2. His name is Clifford Coleman, and he was this tall, lanky, cranky old guy with a heart of gold. And he says, all you need to do is know your lines, know your mark, and know your light. So meaning know your lines, what you're going to say, know your light, meaning where the camera is and where the light source is. So always to look, that's always a vanity thing. It's like, especially for as I grow older, it's like I'm always looking for my light because it makes me look young. But also know your mark is the piece of tape on the floor where you're supposed to land on or supposed to stand on if you're walking towards camera, so that the camera can see your face and hear you as perfectly as possible. So that is the basic 3 pieces of advice that I know. But again, it's about really connecting with the character, knowing who your character is. And you'll never know everything about your character. So don't be so hard and judgmental on yourself, but try to imagine what that character's life is like, and how that character relates to the other person whom you're sharing the screen with. Ralph and I, Pat Morita, Nobu McCarthy, Yuji Okamoto would always talk about, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? Or, wow, that was a really touching moment that I felt from you. So it was always this kind of encouraging collaboration and spirit of saying yes, and yes, and what can we do? Yes, and what can we do more? Or yes, and let's try it this way. It was always the positivity, the forward direction as to how we can better tell a story. Also, though, on the flip side is that if a director comes and says, maybe we could talk a little bit faster, or take the air out of it, meaning say take the breath out of it, or let's hurry it along. That's again, that's a way of critiquing, and it's constructive criticism, because time is so precious, and in order to tell the story, you never want the audience to get ahead of you. So I think that to place your trust in the director's hands, in the director's eyes, is something that every actor has to work through. But for me, it was a no-brainer. I was like, I'll do whatever you want, John. He was the one who was teaching me. So I think I come from that place of really entrusting a director. And actually, as I got older and more experienced, is learning how to trust my own voice too, and learning how to collaborate with my director as well as my thoughts and my ideas and my inspirations.
That's a part of the movie making process which I've always greatly respected. The mechanics of filmmaking, as you just said, hitting the mark, the photography, the directing, and so on. And I mean, you have starred in quite a few movies and also TV series, The Good Doctor, Berlin Station, and so many more. And of course, you as an actress, you have to get into the right mindset in order to evolve, and you have to show some versatility and also adaptability, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's what I guess the joy is, and the surprise. It's a constant surprise as to the auditions that I'm asked to go in for, or the roles that I do get. It's like, oh wow, to be on Star Trek Picard, to be a Romulan Vulcan villain, or a person who has who has a completely different agenda. It's always surprising, and I'm very lucky to go in for a wide range of roles and to be challenged all the time. I'm always scared when I go on set, and I'm sure that's something that you hear from a lot of actors, that I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm not good enough, or who am I? What am I doing here? It's but there is a reason. There's the hand of God. There are the fates. This is your destiny. This is your luck that I got on this. I got to work with these people on this set. So I have a responsibility to the story, because
Yes.
it's the story that really united us. So put away my ego, put away my insecurities, put away my, whatever, egotistical heights that I think I am. It's like, oh yeah, no, I have to refocus constantly, consistently, persistently, that the story is the most important thing, and try to delineate what that moment is, in terms of the scene
Yes.
that we're shooting in particular, and focus on the scene. What do I want? How do I want to make this other character feel? How do I want to feel? What do I want to get out of this? These are the constant questions that a lot of the art and the craft of acting is made fun of. What is my motivation? But that's a serious question. It's like, what do you want? It's like, and that's a question that we can ask ourselves just as ordinary human beings. It's a hard question to answer. So you can't make fun of us actors saying, what do I want? Because that is a constant search for every moment that we're blessed to tell the story in one movie or one episode of a television show or in a stage play. These are constant searches, and that's what's so gratifying. That's the gift. That's, to find those moments where you feel like, wow, that felt so real. That's the prize. That's the treasure that each and every one of us try to pursue.
Did you ever have an audition which made you say, oh my goodness, I felt that was really awkward or even horrible to a certain
Yeah.
degree, and you thought,
Yep.
I'm never going to get the part, but you did eventually?
Yep. Again, going back to Karate Kid, it was like I did it for fun. Michael, I did it for fun. It was like I get to dress in a summer kimono, and I get to speak like my mother speaks, because my mother speaks with a Japanese accent, and it was like, I'm playing around. I'm playing like my mom, if she was, in Okinawa when she was 20 and fell in love with this American kid. It's like, yeah, but that's, that's how it was for me. But for Joy Luck Club, I think I felt awkward, and I didn't think I was going to get a part, because I went in originally for June, which I did not get, which was played brilliantly by Ming-Na Wen. But they brought me in for Waverly. And Waverly, if you read the book, is the bitchy one. She's the mean one. She's not the kind one. She's not the good-hearted one. And so when I went in, and I thought I did a horrible job, but they kept bringing me back in, and I go, wow, I could be the bad girl, or I could be the mean girl. So that was surprising. I remember going in for those additional auditions for Joy Luck Club. That was a surprise, that I knew I could be playing roles like that, a little bit more challenging, a little bit more outside myself, but that I could play more complex characters that are not well liked, and again, serve the story. That's always my modus operandi, is try to get out of myself and try not to be liked all the time. It's just to be able to serve the story.
Great, thank you. And now I would like to go back to Cobra Kai, because I just love this show. And to be honest, when I watched the first
You did
yeah, I
good. Good, good,
did.
good.
But when I watched the first episode of Cobra Kai, I was like, this could really go either way. But after the first two episodes, I was really hooked. And I think I watched every season within 48 hours. So I think it's really, really good. Great characters, and the great continuation of the Karate Kid franchise. And as I understand, many ideas had been pitched also to Ralph Macchio and to William Zabka over the years, and they turned them down. When you were approached, when they offered you the part, did you agree right away, or did it take some convincing on their part maybe?
Oh, I think if I remember correctly, I I think Ralph emailed me and he said, "Would you be interested in coming back?" Because I had heard about Cobra Kai on YouTube. This was before it went on to Netflix. And I had watched a couple of episodes and I go, "What?" He goes, "This is all about the kids." And then I remembered it was about the rivalry, the continuing rivalry between Johnny and Billy. And I said, uh, yeah, I'll take a look at the script. And Ralph is such a fan of the three amigos, John Hurwitz, Josh Heald, and Hayden Schlossberg.
Yes.
He says they're really smart. They're super fans of the Cobra Kai, I mean, of the Karate Kid worlds, so they know it upside, inside out. And he really trusted them. And I said, if you have that trust in them, I'll go along. But let me read the scripts and see what I can do to help. Because my main concern was that because we don't have Pat Morita anymore, we don't have Nobu McCarthy, we don't have Danny Kamekona to represent the elders as to being Okinawan American or Japanese American in the story, that the story is going to rely on me and Yuji Okamoto's knowledge of what it means to be Japanese and Japanese and Okinawan culture. So I had to take a look at the script and say, Josh, John, and Hayden, if I could I incorporate more authenticity in terms of what it means to be Okinawan? And they said, yes, please, this is what we would love to. And that's when they said yes, it was a green flag all the way. So Yuji came in, I came in, and we all just tried to massage the scripts or words, actions as best we could, because looking back at Karate Kid 2, we knew it was more Japanese in effect, but we wanted to do a little bit more closer to what Okinawa really is. And that's my personal heritage. That's my personal background. So I had the permission to do it.
And what I especially liked about season 3 was them bringing back, familiar characters. Of course, you returned, and there was also Yuji Okumoto, who returned for season 3, and I vividly remember the scene between Ralph Macchio, you, and Yuji at the table, and the conversation didn't really go that well at first. You can see Ralph's because Yuji is the very serious looking fella, and Ralph Macchio doesn't really feel comfortable, but then of course it turned out really, really well. And that was a nice touch for season 3. It brought back, feelings of nostalgia. And then Daniel travels to Okinawa to meet with the business executives as his car dealership isn't doing that well. And it must have been great to have this off and on-screen reunion.
I don't remember if there was a behind-the-scenes camera. I'm sure there was by somebody at some time, but the joy, because it's like, I can't believe we're doing this again. And Ralph would say, I've been doing this for 3 years now. This is, meaning coming into season 3. It's like we're redoing what we did, 35 years ago. And to have these parallel characters who live inside us, literally. Daniel-san lives in Ralph Macchio. Johnny lives in Billy Zabka. Chozen lives in Yuji Okamoto. Kumiko lives in Tamlyn Tomita. Their personalities, their personas, they feel like people because they're in the world of Karate Kid 2, brought it back to by Cobra Kai. So it feels kind of ricochet. It feels kind of like a boomerang that we're going back to go forward. So that's the kind of feeling that we would always. I'd start giggling and laughing and go, oh my gosh, Ralph, you still look the same, or you still walk the same, or you haven't aged. And it was always a joy to be able to sit there and just to laugh and to check in because we've seen each other over the years and email each other, but to work together as Daniel-san and Kumiko, that was a gift that very, 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 very few people get to experience. And we are so incredibly lucky to telling the story.
Yes, and I'm glad the seasons have been so well received, and of course, the kids. The story of the kids is a major and intrinsic part of the story, and the rivalries, but also, of course, the Johnny Lawrence, Daniel LaRusso rivalry still lives on, and of course there is an interesting twist and turn of events at the end of season 3, also with Mr. Kreese. That was really good. I loved how they continued the series. Johnny Lawrence is still stuck in the 80s, and Mr. And Daniel LaRusso's character, he seems to be a grounded, agreeable, very, let's say, responsible person who has a nice family.
Yeah, he's a family man, and that's yeah, exactly. That's it's surprising and it's joyful, and we still are kids, and we're still growing up.
Right. And I'm looking forward to season 4, which, as I understand, has been greenlit and will be prepared. At least I hope there will be a couple of more seasons of this fantastic show. And can you disclose whether or not you will return for season 4? Have you been approached?
I cannot disclose that because I have no idea. I know that they did get greenlit as well. I don't know anything as to what's going on because again, we're still in this season of COVID. But I know that they did get a green light. I know as much as you do, and of course I'll cross my fingers. But if not, I know that to have been reintroduced in season 3 is my gosh, it felt like Christmas all over again. So I'm just thankful for that. But again, wishing all the best towards you know Billy and Ralph and the three amigos, as well as all the kids too, because the kids in Cobra Kai, hopefully they'll be able to revisit their characters 35 years from now when they get older.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be something? That would be something to look forward to.
That would be great. Another spin-off of Cobra Kai. Tamlyn, is there anything else on your mind? Any other story you would like to share with me and our lovely audience? Anything about Cobra Kai? Anything about Karate Kid? Any fond memories which come to mind?
I think it's because looking back at our timeline of Cobra Kai and Karate Kid, and it's just been this kind of rediscovery for me as a fan of the original Karate Kid because I don't pay attention that much to all the pop culture references, but the idea that Mr. Miyagi and Yoda are coming up at the same time with the success of Mandalorian, and we get to see the beginnings of of Yoda with Baby Yoda, and to hear all the sayings of Yoda throughout the Star Wars franchise, and to hear all the sayings of Mr. Miyagi in the Karate Kid franchise, they're really like similar wise persons who guide us, who really provide us with that sense of balance. It's like balance, and the forces of good and evil are all within each and every one of us. And that the lessons of Cobra Kai is that kind of renaissance of
Yes.
really digging deep and celebrating and championing the good in all of us. And to be good is a cool and great and awesome thing. To be a badass is great because everybody wants to be a badass, but it's also good to be a good ass. Does that make any sense? So I'm trying to be as wise as Yoda or wise as Mr. Miyagi, but it's really about finding balance. It's like about fighting the evil, fighting the bad in this world. And we have those weapons. We have that power. We have that spirit within each and every one of us. So let's celebrate the good in each and every one of us.
Tamlyn, I would like to thank you so very much for taking so much time out of your schedule. I really appreciate that. I had a great time talking to you, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation as well.
I did. And I wish you all the best and the continuing success for your show. And thank you for having me on. It's a
Thank
real
you.
treat.